Hi everyone, welcome to the Live4Bikes podcast, where we talk about business, entrepreneurship, self-development, and retail in general. Today we got a special guest, Jack, from bike shop Bike-O-Rama. We're going to talk about all things bicycle and retail, so stay tuned. It's going to be a good one.
Thanks for having me, Carlos. I appreciate you having me be here and letting me be your guest.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, Jack, let's tell our guys here just a little bit about your history as a business owner.
Well, so I've been self-employed for over 20 years. I'm 42, and I started a business with a friend at 21, which was a bicycle business. So I've been self-employed now for, going on 21 years as an entrepreneur. So I started out as a bicycle mechanic and then became a shop owner, and now, basically, my own boss for all these years now. It's pretty cool situation.
And how long have you had had a bike shop?
Like I said, since 2004, so 21 years.
Oh, wow,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you get started? Like, what made you want to open up a store?
Well, I really didn't want to. What happened was I started out as a bicycle mechanic when I was 14 years old, and a friend got some money from his parents to invest, and he wanted to open a bike shop, and I didn't think it was a good idea because it's not a very profitable business. And he really was excited about it. He was into cycling. I said, having a passion for cycling is not the same as being a bike shop owner or a bike shop operator. Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize that. And he wanted to do it, and we did it, and it was successful. And then I went on and opened my own store, and then subsequently opened another store with someone else after that. So, we're on incarnation number 3 now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you mentioned, like, having the passion for bicycles. Did you have a passion for the bicycles also, or...?
I think starting out, what gets people into this industry is you like bicycles, you like riding bicycles, you like various aspects of, like, maybe BMX, mountain biking, road biking, whatever. And what ends up over time is you realize that running a bicycle store has very little to do with actually being a cyclist. What it's more about is being an entrepreneur or a business owner. Being a small business owner, you have to wear multiple hats. You have to be a salesperson. You have to be a wrench. Maybe you have to be a bookkeeper. You have to do customer service. You have to do manual labor, because what ends up happening a lot of times is you either can't afford to pay people to have all those positions, or you have to fill in yourself if needed. And that's what it is, and sometimes, like, for instance, if a mechanic calls in sick, I'm the mechanic. If a sales guy calls in sick, I'm the sales guy. If there's minor bookkeeping that needs to be done, the bookkeeper's not available, I'm the bookkeeper, right. So you have to wear multiple hats to sustain it, and that's part of being an entrepreneur.
Would you say, though, that, like, having a passion for, like, the field that you're trying to get into is necessary, or can say somebody who just like, I want to sell X, product just because I think it's a good market. You think that's a good recipe for success, or you think that having that passion is really necessary to be successful in the business?
I think the passion is necessary if it's something that you really care about and you're not very self-disciplined. Some people aren't very self-disciplined. They want to be in a situation where they're passionate about something and they're in it for the love of it. And then there's people that are numbers people and bean counters, and people that look at, if my gross is this much a month and I have to pay for the rent and I have to pay for the utilities and employees and this, is it worth it? And it's a matter of survival and, sustaining a lifestyle and whatever. So, it varies from person to person. Things like that, And if you see a lot of times with this type of business too, there's a lot of people that are immigrants running it, even though it's a low profit business. The way you do it sometimes, and a lot of people that are immigrants, they're very happy to have a job doing this because they're industrious, and it's a good option, being self-employed,
For sure. And you mentioned a little bit about the struggles with employees. I think that's a really interesting topic to get into. What short tips you have for people that might be, again, looking to expand their business by getting employees?
Well, I'll put it this way. This is what I've kind of learned over the years with employees. People that are passionate about something sometimes don't make the best employees, because what ends up happening is it becomes a conflict of interest. Their ability to want to, for instance, get some part for some project they're working on may outweigh their drive to be a good employee. They are, maybe with this business especially, looking at it as a social thing. Especially with me, because I look a lot younger than I am. I'll get people that come in their 20s, they want to be my bro, and being my my buddy is more important than actually being a good employee. So I would say look at credentials, look at resumes, read someone's character more than if you feel like it's the right social fit. And sometimes that's the best step. And find people that are professional, And like right now, I have a gentleman that came to work for us. I'm very impressed with him. He's a senior citizen, but he's worked at numerous bicycle shops, and he's a fantastic worker, a wonderful person, and was it someone I'd normally socially hang out with? No, but he's an amazing employee. So you never know. You never know who it is. You can't judge a book by its cover. You got to look at someone's resume, feel them out, talk to them, and he's an amazing guy.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's again for the channel. Those guys tuning in. That's kind of the second time that we've come across that, because I did in a previous episode of mine, I mentioned the same thing, where sometimes I wouldn't hire somebody who really, really likes bicycles for the same thing. So I had mentioned the same thing, and it's nice to hear that from a second person. Let's move on to another question. You and I have done some deals on closeouts where you find a bike shop that's going out of business, and you go in there and you get stuff at great deals, and then once you've gone through it, you call me up, say, hey, this guy has some stuff, and then I go in there and get some more stuff as well.
So what I was going to say, Carlos, is that I read a statistic many years ago, and I believe it was from the National Bicycle Dealers Association, that the average bicycle store that grosses $250,000 nets $25,000, which is a very poor profit margin. So what I found myself is that you have to be industrious and scrappy to make money. The average new bicycle, we're working off of a 36 to 38 point margin. So meaning, let's pretend that the bicycle is $100. That means we're only making $36 or $38 around there. It's usually maybe $40, 40%. It's 36 to 38 point margin, which is not very profitable.
Yeah. That's probably also like comparable to just retail in general, I would say. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
So what I was saying is we'll start with, you talked to me about liquidations and businesses that are closing. So what I've done a lot of times is I'll buy distressed inventory from other businesses that are closing, people that have overstocked, that are retailers. And what will end up happening is I usually ask our sales reps. So we have a lot of inside sales reps and outside sales reps, and I'll chit-chat with them, and I'll say, hey, is such and such, do you know of any, deals around here where someone's closing or going out of business? Another good place that you can look and that I've looked to is on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, on the internet, things like that, and if you notice those deals, you can sometimes go in there, and a lot of times, the thing is, because we're in Southern California, the land a lot of times is worth more than the business. And the ability to store the inventory. So, like, for instance, if you have a retail space, it's $5,000 a month. You have a bunch of bicycle stuff in there that's 5 years old. The cost of what you could potentially rent the space for is going to outweigh what the value of the inventory is. So they're desperate to sell it. So you can go in there and buy stuff for 10 cents, 20 cents, 50 cents on the dollar, which is a really great way to make money. So, for instance, also too, bicycles have a model year, and most people don't know that. And a lot of times, if you go in these stores where it's dealers that are going out of business or closing out, they might have bikes that are 2 model years, 3 model years old. So, you can go in there and negotiate on the price. So you might get a bicycle, for instance, that, originally cost $260 wholesale and it retailed for $400. You might be able to go buy it for, $180 or $150 and still put it for the $400. And then when someone wants to negotiate, you can go, hey, I'll give you, 20% off because it's a 2023 instead of a 2025. Things like that. And then to the second part of your second part of your question was, we were talking about from wholesalers and things like that. So when you deal with large companies, and I guess I can name them like GT or Cannondale or Haro or bicycle brands like that, Schwinn. Your sales rep will sometimes have a closeout list, and you can ask them, hey, what's on closeout? And they'll be like, well, there's a deal right now. We've got, for instance, this is just an example, this Haro Flightline mountain bike. We've only got it in one size. We've got it in this color. It retails for, $599. Your original cost was, $379. We're going to give it to you for $250, and you can do better than Keystone, and Keystone is doubling your money, as you know. Yeah. You can do better. So, like, for instance, one of our wholesalers a while back, Haro, had some deal where if you buy 12 bikes, it was free freight, and the stuff was deeply discounted. A lot of times they'll do it too when brands are either reformatting, consolidating, trying to close out old model years, weird colors. So closeouts are generally weird colors. Like, for instance, I just bought a bunch of BMX bikes on closeout, and they're all pink. But I bought 12 of them because I can quadruple my money on them. So things like that. So, which is a great margin. So you sell one, a lot of times you'll pay for 3 or 4 if you buy right.
Yeah.
So, but that's my tips. You'll stay in touch with your sales reps for closeouts. If there's deep discounts online a lot of times and you're a dealer for a product, you can talk to the sales rep inside, and that's an indication that the product on their end is deeply discounted if it's, for our cost.
And I would just add, though, there's definitely a fine line when you find those deals of how much product to buy, because when the color is pink and pink is not really a top, really top seller, then when you buy a whole ton of them, you might get stuck with some of that stuff as well. And then, but other times you buy a pink color and it sells out. You're like, man, I should have bought more. And it's a tough thing to know. Because you just never know when you even if you put it at a good price or a sell price, and you might get stuck with it, or sometimes you put it at a good profit margin for the store, and then you sell out and you're like, man, I should have bought more.
Exactly, and also too, you need to make sure with closeouts to be intelligent and buy things that cater to your neighborhood. Like, for instance, if single-speed beach cruisers are on closeout and you're in a hilly neighborhood that's inland, don't buy them. Yeah. If mountain bikes are on closeout and you're at the beach and there's no mountains in your direction for 20 miles, don't buy mountain bikes. Yeah. So you need to have something that caters and makes sense. If you're in a neighborhood, for instance, where people are sensitive to color of bikes, don't buy brown, don't buy pink, don't buy colors like that because you'll get stuck neon green. Because for instance, one time I bought a bunch of fixed gear bikes. They were on closeout. They were hot pink. They were $30 each. Oh. And they used to be, and they retailed originally for $299. So I just parted them out because you can't even buy the parts for that price.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good. And then just generally speaking, I want to add also that we're definitely being very specific to the bike industry, but there's definitely a lot of nuggets in here that could pertain to just retail and just business in general. So keep an eye out for that.
And I'll tell people this real quick, sorry to interrupt. This applies to all industries, buying closeouts, but I'll tell you something else too. If you want to start a business, and this is the best thing too, and let's say you don't like a location where some business is, or you have a space in mind or whatever, look for someone that's going out of business, because that's a great way for you to pick up things like fixtures, tools, such and such items and things like that you can get deeply discounted for pennies on the dollar. And that's how I got into business. Was I found someone that was retiring and bought a lot of their fixtures and moved them over.
And you stayed in the same location or a different location?
So what happened was there was a store, and it was in a much more affluent area. It was closer to the beach, and the gentleman was retiring, and I went in there and bought all his tools. I bought all his fixtures, all his showcases, everything. And then my store was around the corner from my house, and it was inland. And because they had to get out of there by such and such a date, I got everything for literally pennies on the dollar. So everything, all I had to do was basically buy a cash register. So my showcases, my repair stands, everything, because the person was getting out of business, and they were just desperate to get out of there so they wouldn't have to pay this crazy rent. And that's how I got into it. That's a very inexpensive way, and that applies to all industries.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. And that's really smart too, yeah, because I think that generally speaking, even especially with retail or just even real estate or other parts of business where the people are looking to get to retire, and you want to use your youth as an advantage to those people. And again, another tip too, in general that and you touched on this earlier, where a lot of times the business doesn't hold value with the inventory. It's more of the location and the building itself.
The thing is, in Southern California, because I don't know what state you guys are in. You guys are probably in all different states and countries. This is one of the most volatile, overpriced real estate markets out there, in my opinion, in the United States, because it's an urban area. So, for instance, for a lot of these businesses to have lasted as long as they were and were sustainable, like i.e. a bicycle shop, the operators had to buy the real estate back in the 60s and 70s when it was still affordable and have lower property taxes because they've got a grandfathered in property tax, tax bracket or whatever. So the thing is that what ends up happening is a lot of people come into a situation where they go, hey, I have this business, it's in a funky area, I'm only making $300 a day. I can rent this building and retire for $10,000 a month. And that's the story of drive-in theaters. For instance, there used to be tons of drive-in theaters in Los Angeles County, and most of them are gone now because a lot of people closed their drive-in theaters that they had opened in probably the 50s and sold the real estate to developers to build condos because the property had gone up so much. And that's the thing, is you have to weigh a lot of times what's the business worth per square foot to store the stuff versus what you could get leasing it or renting it. And that's the thing with our business. What's happened here is there's a phenomenon where slowly but surely bicycle shops close to the coastline are disappearing. and there's more of them inland because as you go farther inland, closer, like let's say, Riverside County, wherever, the cost to lease property is cheaper and cheaper.
Yeah. And then, so that the big topic on that, we'll probably touch this maybe in another video, is your exit strategy, right? Something that as you're going into the business or as you're, running the business for a few years, is something to think about because most people don't. They think they're going to be able just to sell their business for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No.
And a lot of times that's not the case, again, especially when you don't own the building. So having a exit strategy is very, very important. Again, maybe we'll touch that in another video on that. How do you think the tariffs are going to affect our business here?
The tariffs are going to affect our business, but it's all relative. It's going to make what's going to happen is our cost is going to go up, and we're going to have to pass it on to the consumer. But the thing is that with inflation in general, it's all really relative.
Right.
I went to a wholesaler today and purchased some locks for my bike store, and they'd gone up $2. They were $18 cost. They'd gone up $2. I usually sell them for like $35. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to pass it on to the consumer. But it's not a crazy amount of money. It's not like the prices are doubling or anything, So, my feeling about the tariffs is that, long term, if they keep adding them on and adding them on and adding them on, it could be an issue. But it's just with anything. Like, it's like going to, go to McDonald's now. It's $15 to go to McDonald's. Because Carlos and I are the same age, when we started going, to those places, we probably got our driver's license, you get extra value meal for $4.99.
Yeah.
And, it's all relative. It's, everything's gone up in price. So the thing is that what some importers are doing now to try to escape the tariffs is I don't know if the tariffs, I know that they're talking about Mexico and Canada. I know from what I believe it was just China before and not Taiwan.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, I think, what has happened is a lot of importers have already gone to places like Cambodia, Vietnam, other parts of Southeast Asia. And what may end up happening is they'll just have to go to other countries, Singapore, things like that.
Yeah, but I think the tricky part about...
To avoid the tariffs, but go ahead.
I think the tricky part about tariffs is that they're off and on again, like every other day, and that's really tricky. We are not really in that specific business aspect of it, so we don't have to be really, really like on top of it because we just, we're purchasing stuff wholesale. Our wholesalers do, our importers do, and then analysts that work for other businesses do, and people that are planning to purchase orders in the future really have to do that. So. Again, it's one of the things that I think are making it difficult to really plan for the future, and that just like the uncertainty and things is what's making things just a little hard for everybody and just real difficult to predict. Really, I think. Yeah.
I agree. One good thing though about the tariffs, in my opinion, though, is that with us being in the service industry, one of the things that we have to put up with a lot is people haggling, and especially haggling for our labor.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is that I think by the tariffs bringing up prices on product, it ends up becoming relative to our labor. We can raise our labor. And what I've always said to people about our industry specifically, which is the cycling industry, is you're skilled labor, but you're not paid as though you are. And if, for instance, like let's say a bicycle that used to be $299 is now $499 because of the tariffs, therefore it's relative. We can raise our tune-up prices, let's say, from $39 to $69. And it's relative, and it's to the price, and we're paid properly for the work we're doing. I just use those as example numbers; they're not real numbers.
Okay. Another question I think I have is how has the growth and the influence of Amazon affected your business?
Well, the biggest issue I think that's happened for us is some of our distributors have started to put things online, and Amazon specifically, Walmart.com, things like that. And people will go on there and see the price, and they'll try to show it to us and get us to match it. And for me, it's seldom, but it does happen. And what I explain to people is you can go ahead and buy that, but us providing a service and being in an industry where we're assembling the stuff, putting it together, because our products, if you buy them from us, they come assembled with the manufacturer's warranty and our warranty. If you buy something from Amazon, the warranty is usually void if you assemble it yourself. If it's a complete bicycle or something of that nature. So for me, I use it as an opportunity to educate the consumer. And if it's someone that is like, well, no, you gotta get me for this price, I just don't want that customer. I just decide that customer and I are not the right fit, and they can go buy the thing off Amazon and struggle with it.
Yeah. And I think it's one of the things that I mentioned again in this channel that I want to reiterate is that again, if you are a consumer watching this and you value having a bike shop in your town, then you have to support the bike shop, and you are going to pay a little bit more, but again, you're paying for them to stay in business. You're paying for them to be there when you need them. And if all the shops go out of business because, Amazon just takes over all of retail, then they could charge you whatever they want. So the money you think you're saving now, it's really an illusion. It's always what I say. It's always an illusion because you're going to pay for it one way or another. And then for the longest time, I think Amazon's been one of the biggest welfare recipients in the United States, now paying their employees well and just getting a lot of subsidies from different places, now paying their fair share in taxes. And again, a lot of politicians always talk about how small businesses are the backbone of the United States because we don't have $1 million tax firms, making our taxes. So then we end up paying the most taxes, supporting your local schools, your businesses, your other infrastructure around town. And again, when you put all that power to that, one corporation, again, you're really kind of shooting yourself in the foot.
I would like to add something. It's not just bicycle shops you need to support. Another thing is an example is like physical media. So for instance, there's people that are our age now that are like nostalgic for things like Blockbuster Video and the Warehouse Record Store and things like that, Sam Goody. And the thing is that I think, in my opinion, things like Amazon, the internet were the death of those stores. And what's gotten lost in that is not so much going there to buy the physical media and purchasing it, taking it home. It's the experience of going to a store, putting your hands on what it is, looking at the track list, talking to the employees about it, asking, hey, are the song on the radio? You know what song it is? So for me, growing up as a teenager, I used to really enjoy going to record stores, and they're all gone now pretty much.
Yeah, and that's really true because I think, when people come into our stores, they'll have a conversation with us about something, and it's like this camaraderie that you get from your customers.
Correct.
That it's like it makes you feel good. It makes you feel good that you're in business, that you're actually helping out the community, and you don't get that from the Amazon sellers. You just can't. It's something that they can never do because it's like they're robots or whatnot. But yeah, again, it's really important, and like one of the the talk that I think kind of ties into other subjects and just being like social and having the ability to talk to other people, especially with the younger, the Gen Zs and the Alphas. I think that's going to be something that I think they should really learn to value because again, being social is super important.
Agreed. And the other thing I wanted to add too is the quality of our products. I mean, not all of our products are on the internet and on Amazon, but when I got into this industry, it was in 1997, the distributors protected you. So, like, for instance, if you carried Schwinn, you were a Schwinn dealer, there was no other in like a 4 or 5 mile radius or whatever, and the products went online, and there was a certain quality, and you knew that going to a business like a bicycle store, a record store, a hardware store, or whatever it may be, a lumber yard, I don't know, I'm just using that as an example, there was an unspoken quality that you were going to get of products. And the thing is, with the internet, that does not get vetted. You can see a photo and it looks fantastic, and it shows up in the things like made out of paper, and it looks like it's a quality product, and it's not. And that's why I want to add to, I have never bought anything off of Amazon in my life.
Yeah, I don't have a Prime account.
I do not have an Amazon account. I've never bought anything off of Amazon.
I know. I know. It's again, I don't have any. I don't buy anything from Amazon personally. What tips do you have for somebody that's looking to start up a business on how to manage or tips in general about advertising?
Oh boy, the advertising's changed so much. When I got into doing this, the way that you would do this is you would go do a spread in like the newspaper. They called it advertorial.
Oh, okay, like on the Penny Saver.
I did it in the Daily Breeze because I'm in the South Bay. So we had a thing called advertorial, and you'd pay a couple $1,000s, and you'd have a quarter-page ad or something, and you'd say, hey, Live4Bikes, we got bicycles starting at $99, and come on by, we're having a grand opening, we're going to give away a bicycle for free on Saturday. And then what would happen is they would have a little thing where someone might write a little article in the paper or whatever and say, in your case, it's probably the Downey Patriot or whatever newspaper you have over here.
The one that I remember is the Penny Saver.
Right, Penny Saver. Yeah. But it's still, the Penny Saver is a classified, but we're talking like a real paper, okay,
gotcha.
Like the Los Angeles Times type of deal.
Oh, I see.
So I did it, like I said, when we opened our Lomita location, we did an advertorial, and it was in, like I said, the Daily Breeze. And so we had a little quarter-page article, and then in addition to that, we also had a little thing where we wrote like a little thing like, hey, everybody, there's a new bike store opening up, and they put it in whatever section it was, like the opinions, or I don't know, whatever it was, like the whatever leisure section. They say, hey, there's a great new bicycle store opening and this, that, and the other. So, this is old school. And the other way we used to do it too is we used to do bulk mailers when I started this. We used to do bulk mailers.
Wow.
So we'd have a mailing service and we would have someone do the graphic design and have a paper thing, and we would just have a guy walking around just sticking them in mailboxes or door hangers. We did door hangers. Carlos, I know, did door hangers.
Yeah,
but the world's changed so much now that everything is social media. It's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook Marketplace. So for me, what's changed so much now is, like I said, we're in 2025 now, is, I'm not very tech savvy, but we've been doing videos on Instagram and it's been generating a lot of interest.
Yeah.
And Instagram, it's the new, it's for young people, and I'm sorry to interrupt, they don't have the attention span to do things like read a newspaper and stare at a piece of paper. Yeah. So they have to go on social media and look at their phone. So Instagram has made me, money and stuff, and I've gotten some wonderful customers that are mostly younger than me that have come in and bought bikes. And,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely, I would say that I love, again, the social medias, but I also love to hate them just because of the privacy issues that they have with them. Right. I think the section 2, I think the 258, I can't remember, 268, which protects, the I don't know, don't quote me on that. That protects, all social medias and online stuff from just posting whatever. But yeah, I think social media and just the online advertising has definitely changed. It's something to really focus on as well. Again, there's for me personally, again, it's a double-edged sword where again you're losing your privacy and your which is your privacy really by being a part of that, because you become the product as a consumer. Like, you're not really everything's free on the social medias. But yeah, as a business owner, it's great. You're able to reach. It's getting a little bit more expensive, and I feel like it's getting consolidated in just the three things, which is TikTok, Meta, and then Google. Right. So it is becoming a little bit monopolized because you can't really think of any. Thank you for joining us today with Jack from Bike-O-Rama. We wish you the best in your endeavors. If you have any further questions or you feel like we missed something, please comment below. Thanks again for the support. We're Live4Bikes in the city of Bellflower. Talk to you soon. Live4Bikes is the way I roll. Live4Bikes is the way I roll.